Now, Aaron Rodgers has been heavily linked to the Denver Broncos ever since it became very clear that his time in Green Bay at minimum appears limited. The Denver Broncos' arguably best player is Von Miller, and he is doing his best, at least publicly, to ignore all of the Aaron Rodgers trade rumors and connection to the Denver Broncos and hype up his current QB, which is Drew Lock, by the way. Now, of course, I will make note, Denver also traded for Teddy Bridgewater, but here's what Von Miller had to say, and I appreciate his honesty, by the way, in this quote. It's crazy to think about, getting an Aaron Rodgers. You put him on any team in the league, and he changes that team. If you get too emotionally involved in those guys, and then it doesn't happen, now you got Locke over here looking like, what about now? So you don't want to get too emotionally attached to the rumors. You start thinking about, oh, we're going to get Aaron Rodgers or Deshaun Watson. But hold on, wait a minute. We've got Drew Lock. That's who we're running with. That's who we're going into the season with until anything changes. Now, that's been spun publicly as hey, Von, we don't need them. We got Drew Lock. That's not the way I took that quote. That's a quote of, I would love Aaron Rodgers or Deshaun Watson, but I don't know if we're going to get him. So make your predictions for me right now in the comments section. Who do you believe will be the Denver Broncos starter at quarterback in Week 1? In reality, there are three options. Aaron Rodgers, Teddy Bridgewater, and then also the incumbent starter, Drew Lock. Now, the Denver Broncos like Drew Lock. I think they would love nothing more than for Lock to have the greatest breakout season since, I guess Josh Allen last season, and establish himself as the future at the quarterback position for Denver. But across his NFL career, we haven't seen that. I tried to warn Broncos fans, based on the wins that they saw in 2019, hey, he needs to be better. He hasn't shown enough yet. And what we saw in 2020, I would argue at times was improvement, but this is not an obvious franchise quarterback, at least not yet. So if you are Denver, you're hoping Drew Lock takes a step forward, but they're also aware that might not happen. That is why they went out and at minimum acquired Teddy Bridgewater. Bridgewater fills that not ideal role, but a role nonetheless of, hey, this can be our backup quarterback. This can be someone who we throw into the starting lineup if we need to do so, and gives us an option to potentially save Vic Fangio's job if Drew Lock does not fare very well. So I like Bridgewater. I have potential with Drew Lock, but none of those guys are Aaron Rodgers. I think Von Miller's kind of right there. You don't want to get too emotionally attached in case it doesn't happen. But if you are the Denver Broncos and you just so happen to find yourself in this position where you are able to actually acquire Aaron Rodgers, knowing how expensive the cost is going to end up being, you pretty much owe it to yourself as an organization to go get him. Even if you believe in Drew Lock, that's not Aaron Rodgers. And yes, it shortens your hypothetical franchise window, but it's Aaron Rodgers. You should go get him if you can, if you're the Denver Broncos. Let's talk more Denver Broncos here, specifically the running back position. Could Javonte Williams, the team's second-round pick out of North Carolina, could he actually start in Week 1 for the Denver Broncos? Now, the Broncos traded up to go get Javonte Williams. Denver Post argues, hey, that's an indication they want to give him a key role early on. Now, the Broncos also have Melvin Gordon as the incumbent running back on this team. So there isn't a very super clear, obvious, instant starting role available for Javonte Williams in the same way had he lasted one more pick to, say, the Miami Dolphins. Melvin Gordon, at his age, with his contract ending after this year, guess what? He wants to be the lead back. He's made that very clear even before the Broncos drafted Javonte Williams in round 2. And there's some decent depth, by the way, for Denver. Royce Freeman, Mike Boone, two more veteran guys who aren't elite backs by any stretch of the imagination, but if called upon, could handle a role pretty decently. So Gordon is the more experienced one, the more proven one in the NFL, but Javonte Williams is the fun new toy for Denver. So who do you think ends up starting? Get your votes in for me in the comments section right now. Type in G for Melvin Gordon, or you can type in W for Javonte Williams. Let's break down both players now, a little bit more in depth. Melvin Gordon was fine last year for Denver. Now, of course, he was splitting time with the now departed Philip Lindsay. He had 215 carries, almost got to the 1,000-yard mark. He was so close, 14 yards away. 4.6 yards per carry. It's not bad. It's not elite necessarily, but that is starting running back, lead running back in the NFL, even in the committee. Production out of Gordon. He's a good football player. But clearly Denver has made this obvious and known. Javonte Williams is the future. It's a matter of how quickly into the present does Javonte Williams take over at the running back position. At UNC, and this is why I liked him so much coming out, as a more battering ram runner who does not have elite speed but does offer pass-catching value, he put up just nutty numbers for the Tar Heels. On admittedly a smaller sample size of 157 carries, he ran for over 1,000 yards at a 7.3 yards per carry clip. Go watch him against the Miami Hurricanes. They had no answer for him or his running mate Michael Carter and 19 touchdowns. Now, my expectation is you see both of these guys. Denver did it last year with Philip Lindsay and others as well. So my guess, my potential freezing cold take here early on, is that Melvin Gordon will start, quote-unquote, in Week 1. He will be the lead back. He'll be out there with the first offense to get things going when Week 1 kicks off. He will get the majority of the touches, even though you will still see some Javonte Williams as a number 2 back in the offense. But by the end of the season, even if it's only, say, Week 18, I think Javonte Williams will take over as the lead back for Denver. That is true, I think, whether or not Denver is in the playoff push, or potentially if they're out of the playoff race, at which point they're going to want to give more touches to Javonte to get him more up to speed, and maybe Gordon wants to keep himself healthy for his upcoming NFL free agency. So I don't know necessarily when Javonte Williams will take over as the lead back for Denver, but it's going to happen sooner rather than later. That is very clear. At least that should be very clear. This is going to be his committee to lead, or his running back room to lead in the not-too-distant future. Denver Post was right. You don't trade up for somebody in round 2 with the plan to not get him on the field in his first season. So I don't know if it's Week 1, Week 7, Week 10, whatever it is, but you will see Javonte Williams play a key role for this Denver team sooner rather than later.